All right, welcome back to the Krug Show. Larry Kruger, joined by John Chapman. We're going to rehash the NFL draft. John was in Vegas. How was Vegas, John? How was the party?
Oh, I still have not recovered, so I think it did it correctly, which is the way it's supposed to go. But man, it was great. Incredible turnout from the faithful. They were everywhere we looked. Even though we didn't have a first round pick, we were by far one of the top 10 most represented fan bases. It wasn't even close. Absolutely incredible time.
Well, let's get right into it. Niners went with Drake Jackson at the 61st pick overall in round two, late round two pick. They didn't make a single trade in this draft, and they take the SC edge rusher, wore number 99 for Southern Cal. What did you think of the pick? What do you think of Jackson?
It was by far my favorite pick of the draft. We were live all days 1 and 2, and I kept saying, if they trade up here in the 50s, there's two guys I'm looking at. Really, there are three guys. It was, Sky Moore, who kept falling, Nick Bonito, the other edge rusher from OU, and Drake Jackson. I just thought he was a perfect fit. The 49ers had an official interview with him. He just turned 21, and just the upside. Really, this entire draft is an upside draft, but he's Gumby with incredible size. He's huge. I don't think people understand how big of a kid this is, with some elite traits in the bend flexibility range, which usually is atypical for a body that size.
What I love about him is the fact that he's like a D Ford replacement. I mean, this is a guy who seriously can get the edge, and the weaknesses that he has in his game, which are he doesn't anchor well against the run. In this wide nine system that Coach Tariq runs, he really just has to burn the edge and be able to bend and get to the quarterback. And I just think that if he can get settled at the right weight, because he was at 280 as a freshman, then dropped 20 pounds. He lacks some play strength. I'm not sure if he's gotten great advice on how he wants to go, but now they'll get him in-house. They'll tell him how they want to use him, what weight he needs to be at. I think he's best at about 260. But what I love is the first step. The first step that D Ford had, this kid has as well.
Yeah, you nailed it. And whenever you said, I don't think he's gotten good advice, I don't think he's got good coaching, I don't think that they put good decisions around him because they played him out of position. Plus, they're doing this 3-4 whatever. He needs to play on the edge. I'm going back through his 2020 tape currently, and he's running into two blockers, in that kind of 4-eye. It's awful. It's just like, why are you playing this guy out of position? And so he's finally going to a place. And here's the best news of all, Larry. He doesn't have to be the guy right away.
No. He can play in a rotation. They got a bunch of guys.
You just, hey, man, we're going to bring you in a NASCAR package only, and we're going to set you outside. You just do your thing opposite Bosa. You're never going to get chipped. You're going to be just fine. And that's the thing. You can slowly unpackage this gift and allow it to become what it should, which he's got an insane high ceiling.
What I love is the combination of the first step and the motor. You can't coach that first step. They either got it or they don't. And really, your motor is about your pride. It's about how hard what does it mean to you? How do you scout that? What does football mean to you? I don't know. It means a lot to me. Believe it or not, it doesn't mean the same to every guy. And that's what I love about him. He's a freak. He comes flying off the edge. He's got the high motor. And as you said, John, they don't have to play him right away. He can just kind of get in the system. It's what a loaded defensive line room they have. All right, let's move to the second pick, the LSU back, because this one drew some criticism. A lot of people felt like they should have gone free safety. Nick Cross was on the board, and they went with Tyrion Davis-Price, 225-pound running back from LSU who runs sub 4.5, I think 4.47, something like that. What did you think of the pick? The highlight they showed of him in the draft of him just bulldozing the safety and keeping right on rolling was fun to watch. But what do you think of the pick?
Yeah, it's weird. It makes you scratch your head. And I'll say this. I thought that they were going to go running back early. The whole time, I didn't think it was going to be this cat, Ty Davis-Price. But he is just a yards after contact bulldozer. That's what he is, with good speed. With 4.48, I think is what they clocked him at. He's got the speed. But it's interesting because it doesn't typically fit the Shanahan mold of running backs. And perhaps we're seeing this delineation from the kind of trends that he goes after, you know, that elite top tier speed. That's not what this guy is. He's not a home run hitter. He has never averaged over 5 yards per carry in the 3 years he was at LSU. Now, having said that, he is always moving forward after contact. So, again, somebody that's just a first down mauling machine with, and I think probably his best trait, pass protection. Why do rookies not see the field? Because they get their quarterback hit. I had him graded as one of the top pass protectors in the pass game of anybody in this draft class. So I fully expect him to see the field early. And with the way Shanahan was talking about a 1-2 punch with him and Elijah Mitchell, I think he has already vaulted ahead of Trey Sermon. And anything you get from Trey Sermon now moving forward, that's just gravy, because I think they're almost done with that whole project. You got to keep him because he's cheap, but they're kind of moving on.
I think this was a lot about Debo. Like, this is the guy that you get so you don't have to keep running Debo as a running back if he's going to stick around. And we'll talk about Debo before we get out of here. But what I also like about Davis Price is just the volume of carries. I mean, 21 carries against Louisiana Monroe. He came back the next week, 28 for 106 against Arkansas. Came back the next week, 23 for 104 against Bama. 2 weeks later, 36 carries for 287, 8 yards a pop, and 3 touchdowns. The Florida Gators still haven't tackled this guy. I mean, he just rumbled through them. And then to back that up, the next game against Kentucky, 22 for 147 and 2 touchdowns. You know, I like the power speed element. This was a loaded, group of backs this year. I kind of like Ty Chandler and some other guys who went a little bit later. But I'll tell you, the LSU kid looks good to me, and I can't really rip that pick. I would have loved to have seen Nick Cross there, but you know what? If they feel like that's the power speed combo, because this guy's about 220. He's a bigger back, but he's got decent speed for that size. So if they feel like he's the good complement, Kyle's had a pretty good eye for backs.
Yeah, and I'll say this. You know, you talked about the amount of carries he was getting late in his career, but if you look at the 3-year career he had in LSU, he's under 400 total carries for his career.
Low mileage.
So you're seeing somebody that you can check the box. Okay, he can be a workhorse because we saw it in this last stretch of the season of his last year at LSU, but he doesn't have the usage. He really, really doesn't. And so you get to bring this dude out, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I like the pick. Was it early? Did I have other backs ahead of him? Yes and yes. But it's not a bad pick. If he can go in and make Trey Lance's life easier. Again, pass protection. It's not sexy. It doesn't sell jerseys, but it keeps your quarterback upright and keeps him clean. And I'll buy that clean quarterback jersey now. So I'll take that.
Let's get to the next pick, Danny Gray, SMU. And I did a video on this kid before the draft. I think maybe in one of the mocks that we did, I probably took Danny Gray. I mean, he's an SMU kid. Robertson was supposed to be the guy there this year. Gray shows up and he just was incredible. And you will watch this guy and you can see the ridiculous speed, 2 steps and he's at full speed. Mm-hmm. Then you do some research and you realize, you know what, this is not just a speedster. This guy's got some toughness to him. And that to me is the combination that I really love. The home run speed, and he's not fearful. He can run across the middle. No. He can take a hit. He's not the most durable receiver. He needs to get stronger, that's for sure. But this guy is electric. And to me, if you're going to keep Debo and you have Ayuk and you have Kittle and you have Juwan Jennings, you got a lot of underneath guys. You don't have the run off the coverage guy. This is that guy, and I think it was a phenomenal pick. Perfect complement to their receiver room.
And it was a free pick. Remember, this was the Mike McDaniels pick that they got just because he got hired in Miami. So this is extra, and you go get an extra guy. Now, speed is off the charts, as you mentioned. He was clocked at a 22.01 miles per hour at the Senior Bowl. One of the fastest times registered. The dude, he's got it in spades. Probably my second favorite trait that he has, if we're not going grittiness, he tracks the ball very, very well whenever it's deep. It looks like a center fielder over the shoulder. You get those kind of classic, over the shoulder looking where he just looks it right in, which is awesome and a rare trait in today's NFL. He's got that. Now, drops are an issue. Fumbles are an issue. There's issues that are there. But the upside, burner, deep catch, He's got a role. He doesn't have to be the number 1, 2, or 3 wide receiver and option. He gets to just take his time and develop. Now, one of the things I am concerned about, Larry, this kid's never been outside of Dallas in his life, and chose, he went to Blinn College because he didn't qualify academically right out of high school, and chose SMU over some top tier schools. So I'm curious what that transition is going to be like. I hope he's got a good support system. Excited to see what he can bring, because this pick is kind of the microcosm of this draft. Potential and exciting, but production hasn't really been there yet, if that makes sense. We're drafting these guys for what they could be, not what they've shown us so far.
And yet Gray did it this year as far as his numbers. I'm looking at his game log right here. He had some big games. He had 8 catches for 140 against Tulane. He had 4 catches for 130 and a touchdown against TCU. He had some decent days. He had multiple touchdowns against South Florida, multiple touchdowns against Memphis. So he scored 5 touchdowns or 6 touchdowns in his last month of games. So he did some things, but I hear you. It's a lot of it's based on a projection of speed and what that speed's going to translate to the next level. I will say this: there's a lot of guys who run 4.3. But man, when you watch the film, does it translate? Is it functional speed? When you watch this guy, you see a lot of the same things you see from Tariq Hill. Like, his speed bothers defensive backs, and he's full speed quickly. And so I saw guys taking bad angles, and I saw this guy kind of, changing the whole geometry of the game when he's got the ball in his hands. So I'm looking forward to how much space a guy like that can create. You got something else you want to say about him? Because
I just see a clear path.
Film.
Yeah, I see a clear path for him getting playing time, because he's not the shiftiest wide receiver. He doesn't have the most nuanced route tree. It's not bad. I'm not saying he's a bad route runner, but literally this guy gets to come in as the wide receiver 4, and if he just runs a slant or a go route, that's fine, which he excels in. You know what I mean? And so he has a clearly defined path where he can jump on the field and contribute early, even if he's only getting, 15 to 20 snaps a game. That's fine, because when he checks in, safety got to move back.
Yeah,
that's all there is to it. Especially with Trey Lance.
Other guys. They're going to love him. The other receivers, he's going to be a popular guy in that room, right? Don't you think? What do you think of the offensive lineman from UTSA? The one thing, if you watch Texas San Antonio this year, they ran the ball. They really ran the ball. Sincere McCormick. They set a school record for scoring offense there this year, and Spencer Burford was a key figure on that offensive line. He's a 43 game starter with 34 and 3-inch quarter-inch arms. Tenacious guy, and you can see, he's versatile. He's played both tackle spots, both guard spots. Comes from a football family. Sam Hurd is his cousin, and he plays. The one thing I always look at is what percentage of the games do you play? This guy started 43 of his 45 collegiate games. So he likes to play, and he plays with great effort. First team all-conference in 2021 in Conference USA. 11 starts at left tackle this year. If you watch the film, he's flying. Seriously, is moving really fast. He's 6'4 and an eighth, 304, which by offensive tackle standards is on the small side. What do you think? That Texas San Antonio team, I know you're down there in Texas, they were 12-2. That's a pretty good football team. This guy was part of the reason why.
That's right. The fighting Roadrunners, baby. He's fun, man. The highest recruit they have ever had, and it's not even close. And he chose to stay there and just started from the start. He just showed up. First game he was there, he was starter, never gave up. And he just kind of does everything. Again, the things what's elite about him, his frame, his build is unreal, and upside. That's what you're going for. Where will the 49ers play him? Who knows where they play any offensive lineman not named Trent Williams? Everybody moves around. And so I like him best as a right tackle, but you can move him around wherever. And so will guard be the spot that he lands? Who knows? They have so many of these guys that are kind of positionless, football, but man, his mobility is great. I think he needs to work on his anchor just a little bit, but the frame says, holy cow, he could add weight with ease. And once he gets into an NFL weight room, I think that's going to help him out tremendously.
It's funny. Both of the offensive linemen that that the Niners drafted, they showed highlights of, and the highlights that they used made them look just nasty. Because this guy Burford threw somebody away, and then just there was another one
Yeah.
where he threw a guy down on the ground and just absolutely pile drived him into the turf. And you know what? But bottom line is, I like that. I like offensive linemen who want to finish. I like offensive linemen that want contact. I like offensive linemen that want to bury the guy opposite them and pancake him. That's the goal. That is the goal. If you get 5 guys that all think like that, I think you're got a better offensive line. Really
Yeah,
do.
and it fits the persona of the offensive line room. They're all projects, okay? Everybody we drafted the offensive line is some type of project. And even if you talk about Aaron Banks that they got last year, they tried to move him to right guard. He couldn't do it. Now he's back to left guard. You know what I mean? So like whether it's Colton McKivitz or School or whatever, these guys are all like they're moving parts, and it might take a while to find the right spot for him. But again, this is a guy that does not have to come in and start right away. I don't think that we see that. So he's going to be able to kind of chill, figure it out, and, perhaps win a spot maybe in the middle to late year. And again, another one of those guys, Kyle redshirts him, you know what I mean, and just sits him, and then he steps in the next year.
Well, and as far as Burford, we don't know what spot he's going to play, as you said. I mean, he could be a guard, he could be a tackle, he could be on the left side, he could be on the right side. More than anything, they got quality depth there. And the kid,
we don't even know what Jalen Moore's playing from last year, right? Like, I mean, this is their MO. This is what they do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, to me, it's like get a group of talented, hardworking, athletic guys who are tough and coach them up. Coach them up. They're going to have to be able to play multiple spots anyway. When you go to a game day situation, you lose a guy, you got to plug another guy in, and that versatility is absolutely key. I'd much rather take a line full of guys that have some experience at other spots than guys that are locked in. I'm a right guard and I only play right guard. Show me a little versatility. I think that makes you a lot more valuable. Let's talk about the Fordham kid, because I thought his film was awesome. Number 75 for Fordham. Nick Zakel, I believe, is the silent J. Is that?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay,
Yogging, I believe.
6'6", 325. Another smart, tough offensive lineman with great feet who plays nasty. Played really strong against Nebraska. If you watch the Nebraska film, that was impressive. This guy is a team captain, the leader of the team, leader of the Fordham offensive line. He's an Ohio kid from Broadview Heights, Ohio, academic, All-American, honor roll, 3-year starter at left tackle, decorated player, played right tackle as a freshman. But this guy is, Fordham had a good offense too, by the way. They led the league in total offense. And this was the pick they got from Denver for Jonas Griffith. I just like the aggression. I like the tenacious run blocker that this guy is. He's a finance major, big hands, really aggressive. Looks like he likes to fight. To me, this guy maybe is the guy you see in the interior. Maybe he's the center. Maybe he's the future center.
Yeah, all these guys, man, where do they fit? And, he played inside at the Senior Bowl and had a really bad first day, then kind of had a bad second day, then a good third day, then a really good fourth day. And so you see this adaptability. And for him, you're just looking at the trajectory. Okay, he's going to be 23 years old at the start of the season, a little bit older than you'd like. But again, this is somebody that's 4-year starter. So it's at a lower level of competition for sure. But whenever he stepped out there with players on his level at the Senior Bowl, it took him literally a matter of days to catch up and then start surpassing people playing a new position. Again, he can play all over. I think right tackle is probably where I would put him again. But again, Kyle Shanahan is going to play mix and match, and they're going to be changing positions all over like crazy. But he's fun. And this dude's already finished his master's. You talked about how he's a finance major. He's already finished his master's. This dude, I love it, man. I love what he brings, the nastiness and intelligence, and 4-year starter captain. I think that they're going to put that gold helmet. They haven't said who their gold helmet guys are that they do every year. I think this guy could be one of them.
Really? He, another guy, super nasty. I mean, he was like, well, watching Conrad Dobler out here. I mean, he was seriously, he was throwing guys down, and I mean, he just looked like a guy who just, had the great football face for sure. Let's talk about the corner from Toledo, because this is the pick that got a lot of people up in arms. Why? Because
Yeah.
he was listed as an undrafted free agent, and the Niners took him in the 5th round. Now, from what I heard, and I'm sure you read the same thing, that the scout, the road scout who did the reports on him was banging the table for Samuel Womack from Toledo, who went from a walk-on in 2017 to a 2-time captain and first-team All-MAC in 2021. Not a big guy, but he was an all-Detroit high school player at an East English Village Prep, played 7 games as a true freshman, had 1 pick, 13 games as a sophomore, and then tied for second in all of college football, I believe, as a junior, all of FBS with 15 pass breakups, 59 tackles, first team All-MAC in 2021. Ball hawking slot defender, 4.4 speed, maybe even a little faster than that, 4.39. I think somebody had him clocked at. Can play press, can play zone. Heard an interview with him, and he's like, man, I'm a shut down, in your face, bump and run, man corner. I mean, the way this guy talked, it's like you gotta have swagger to play the corner. To play on an island against NFL caliber athletes, you better be cocky. And this guy's cocky. I think this might be a sleeper pick. I really do.
It's interesting, the metrics, if you compare them to K'Wan Williams, they're almost the identical player, build, speed, all those things. His story's interesting. My favorite thing that he brought about him, he ran a 6.8 3-cone, which Kyle Shanahan loves 3-cone times. So the change of direction shows on film. You see the metrics.
Agility.
That's a huge check mark. He's tough in the middle, and he'll get up in the run game. Now, my favorite thing about this guy, he walked on. He didn't even get a scholarship to play at Toledo until after 2 years. So this is somebody that has legitimately clawed their way. Guess what? Charvarius Ward, same thing. Had to fight his way up, undrafted free agent, right? And earn his spot. And so, yeah, you like that chippiness, especially in the secondary, but you get ball skills, ball skills, ball skills. This dude led the MAC 3 consecutive years in passes defense. He gets his hands on the ball. And so change of direction, ball skills. He is already 23 years old, so he's a little bit on the season side. But I like him. Was it a little early? Sure. But I don't care. And guess what? Already has his college degree. Almost like we keep checking these, like there's similarities into what the 49ers were looking for.
Well, what I like too, John, is just the fact that, as you said, it's just words unless you've lived that lifestyle. But there's a big difference between a walk-on and an all-conference player, and you don't see that happen all the time. There's a lot of work that has to happen from I walked on to I made all-conference in the MAC. The MAC is not a joke conference; it's a good conference with quality.
It is. Now, big reason, and I've read this, I forgot who, I think it was Dan Brugler. I want to make sure I give him credit. Talked about how he didn't get recruited because he was an AAU basketball player and wasn't sure he wanted to go football. That was going to be his, sport of choice at the next level. But like, he's an athlete. There's no doubt about it. And so one of those guys that might be a better athlete and football player than he is a corner, if that makes sense. Just his body limits him to that nickel spot. And so because, again, he's 5'9", 189, so not somebody you're going to play outside. He's going to stay inside only, but that is 70% of the snaps in the 49ers defense.
Yeah. Oh, and that's a very important position and becoming more important, it seems like, all the time. But I just like the fact that this kid's obviously got the physical ability and he's got the collegiate production, and he showed that he had the desire going from walk-on to, all-conference player. And then I heard the interview, and man, he sounded exactly the way I want. I did an interview a few years ago on draft day, DJ Reed, and I thought the exact same thing. Swagger, cocky, total confidence in himself, total and utter belief. You know what I mean? And that's what you need. And Womack had the same thing. I saw an interview on YouTube yesterday that he did, and he believes in himself, and obviously somebody in that Niner room believes in him as well. And you know what? I'll say this. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. When you get to the 5th round, there's not a huge difference between the grades on 5th round, 6th round, 7th round undrafted. It truly is beauty in the eye of the beholder. And you might look at him one way, somebody else may have a different time on him or look at him differently. But I like that pick from the Niners' perspective. All right, my favorite pick is this next one, Khalia Davis from Central Florida, who was a linebacker. In fact, he played the Mike, he played the Sam, he played the Will, he played all three linebacker positions. Eventually transitioned as he got bigger to D end. Now he's a D tackle. He's coming off a knee injury, so we don't know if he's even going to play this year. But man, when you watch this guy, I mean, this guy is this is a fun film to watch.
Yeah.
He's sawed off. He looks a little bit like a Warren Sapp. He's like kind of a sawed off guy. But he is 6'1", 300 pounds, and quick as hell, and fast and explosive. And he's playing with a crazy motor. And he moves well laterally for a guy who's 310 pounds, roughly, let's say. Exciting player. They got to get him healthy, and then, man, I think they said that he compared him to DJ Jones. I think DJ's better against the run, but this guy looks better than DJ against the pass. And remember that name. I think he's going to be a pretty decent interior rusher.
Yeah, he's a slicer, man. Like he wants to get into the backfield. It's funny, back in my coaching days, we would say, hey, man, you about a cheeseburger away from putting your hand in the ground. You better watch that belly. And Khalia Davis did not. But I think this is a better spot for him, and he'll be happy to learn. Defensive tackles get paid more than linebackers usually if he hits that level. So now we got to talk about the injury. In October, tore his ACL. Now, if you look at one of the questions that I think is most telling with the way the 49ers draft is their post-game press conferences when they say, well, we asked the question, can this guy make our roster? Okay, well, let's look at Khalia Davis. Because of the ACL injury, guess what? He doesn't have to make the roster. And because he got injured before he was drafted, he doesn't even go on the PUP. He goes on the NFI list because any non-NFL injury counts as a non-football injury. That's a whole nother whatever. But this person, again, we've got 13 players already on defensive line. We're only going to keep 10 or 11. So this is one of the ones they'll get to stash on the NFI, and he won't have to clear, if I'm correct. I believe I'm correct in what I'm saying. So he won't count as one of those initial spots. And
so you're redshirting him. You're giving him a full redshirt year.
Unless, well, maybe not even the year, but you can bring him back after week 6, allow him to get through his time, because again, you're going to have defensive line injuries once the season starts. So you kind of already got your guy reserved just sitting there, and he can step in whenever that is. And again, let me throw another theme. Guy's already graduated, already working on his master's in criminal justice. Incredible guy academically. Again, I think that's something that this front office values very, very much, the academic side of their college lives.
Yeah. To me too, it's just like when you see a guy who can move the way this guy moves at 300 plus pounds.
Yes.
You sit there and go, wow, you know what? Red shirt a year, so what? Not ideal, but guess what? This guy, if the way he moves and at that weight and that agility and that motor, if he had been healthy, maybe late day 2 pick, maybe in the 60s, somewhere in there.
You look at last year's draft when, who was it? New England got Christian Barmore. The whole time I was watching this guy, I was like, dude, this is Christian Barmore. It's the same player. Well, guess what? He went in the back of the first. Like, penetrating defensive tackle play is difficult to find. He has it in spades, and you've only seen a small glimpse because of the transition from linebacker to D tackle. He's only been playing defensive tackle for 2 years. You know what I mean? Upside.
Well, and John, you saw the Niners every snap this year. This guy is perfect for Coach Eric. Why? Because he runs his D linemen out there. It's like hockey and lines. You know what I mean? You guys go. Now you guys go. Now you guys go. 4 new guys coming in. Everybody's playing with their hair on fire. This guy, what I love about this Khalia Davis is that he played at Central Florida with that same pace that the Niners are going to expect him to play at, on their line. All out, full bore, full tilt, let it all go. And then when you need a blow, put your hand up and we'll rotate another guy in.
Right.
I mean, that's a guy who I like that, because that means he's going to, whatever you play him 12 reps, he's giving you 12 hair on fire reps.
You nailed it, Larry. You nailed it. Again, what's his call to action to get on the field? What's his role going to be? It's the freaking NASCAR package.
Yes.
You put this guy right over the center or in a one technique whenever it's passing, whenever it's third and long. Like, that's his role. He comes in, gives you 10 to 12 good pass rush snaps from the middle. That, like, you see a clear path to playing time and a way for him to be successful. You don't have to do everything. Man, you're with the 49ers. We got guys out the wazoo on the D-line. You do what you do best, and we'll grow into something more long-term, perhaps.
Yep, exactly. What do you think of the last couple picks? Tariq Castro Fields, the Penn State corner. Man, if I just told you, Penn State corner, 6'1", 197, 4.38 speed, without even flipping on the film, you'd have a little interest, especially when I told you it's the 7th round. And the Niners got this guy. Lynch in the post-game or post-draft presser said that the coaches, at Happy Valley really sung his praises. I've heard people suggest that potentially he could play safety. Then I saw some of the reps he had at the Senior Bowl. You could argue a couple of them were PI because he was pretty aggressive, and maybe a little face guarding on a couple of those reps that people were touting him for. But who cares? What the bottom line is, that's the best college wide receivers in the country, and he was mirroring them up and down the field. He needs a little bit more refinement at the catch point, but you show me a day 3 corner at this point that doesn't, right? I mean, I love the Penn State background.
Yeah, I think this and Drake Jackson were my only 2 value picks, if that makes sense. Like, guys that you took that quote unquote fail that the national media or whatever had rated higher collectively. And so again, what does Tariq Castro Fields bring? He's speed. He's got 5 years of playing time. He's already 23, so he's a little bit on the old side. But he does what 49ers corners value, and that is no separation. And we could say, all those pass interference calls, whatever else, like that would be the issue. But he always is on top of the route. He's not somebody that gives up a lot of separation, which is why they brought in Charvarius Ward. Now, the ball skills, they're rough. Missed tackles are pretty bad, and I think that's why he fell so far. But the outside corner depth is crazy. And again, if you want to put him at safety, I don't know if I would. But this is outside corner depth. I think that this is somebody that will probably wind up on the practice squad when it's all said and done, especially now that they just signed Jason Verrett. We got some very good outside corner depth for the first time since Shanahan and Lynch showed up. I've never been able to say that phrase, but this is it. We got it now.
Yeah. No question. They just re-signed Verrett, as you said. Yeah. And you better get ready to defend wide receivers. Why? Because there's tons of them coming into the league. 17 went in the first 3 rounds. 13 wide receivers went in the top 55. I mean, wow. This was the wide receiver draft, and we saw a bunch of trades involving veterans as well. Before we get to why don't we hit it right here, since we're talking wide receivers? The story of the day is Debo still wants out. What do you think? I mean, I think there were a lot of 49er people who were like, when the first round came and went and he wasn't moved, they're like, oh, phew, Debo's going to be a Niner. Woo, thank you. Dodge that bullet. And now here we are after the draft, and Jeremy Fowler from ESPN reporting, you know what, Debo still wants out. What do you make of it? Where does it go from here?
It's not going anywhere, man. I would love to have dinner with Scarlett Johansson, but my wife will not allow me to do such. Therefore, I do not get to have dinner with Scarlett Johansson. And that's just kind of the way it goes, man. The 49ers are in complete control of the situation. And if they turn down the number 10 pick, what is out there that they could trade for at this moment now? All the teams that were wide receiver desperate for wide receiver teams, as you just said, guess what? They all got top tier wide receivers at the draft. So their need is it's dissipated. There's no way they're going to even overspend what they were offering a while ago. Debo's going to have to come to the realization, you play for $4 million this year, or you play for around $22.5 million this year. It seems like an easy choice for me. I think money's going to have to solve this problem. I think cooler heads will prevail when it's all said and done. Because even if Debo says, okay, fine, I'm fine leaving $18 million on the table this year, guess what? 49ers would franchise him the next year. The new CBA, you cannot sit out. It's just not a reality. It'll get solved. But at training camp, like we've been saying all along, Larry, it's got to be done at training camp.
Is it going to be is he going to be traded in training camp? Jets gang says Ravens still need a wide receiver.
What could they offer? What is it that the Ravens could offer the 49ers I don't know. No draft picks this year? You mean tell me Kyle said no to the number 10 pick, but they're going to be fine trading him for no picks this year? I just do not see it. I just
To
don't
me, a
see it.
trade at this point, a nightmare.
No
At
way,
this
man.
point, if you
No
traded
way.
him on draft night and got a slew of picks, that's one thing. You trade him now for future picks, and then you're going to play the whole year without him. It does
Nope.
make you wonder that they did go wide receiver, pretty early. They went Danny Gray pretty early, and then let's talk about the undrafted class, because to me, part of the reason I hear the people who are, I don't like this draft class. Okay, why? Well, I didn't like the running back from LSU over a safety. Okay, I hear you. Danny Gray, has fumbling issues. Okay, fine. To me, he's still a vertical threat that they needed, and to me, he fits perfectly. Maybe you could argue the offensive linemen are a little bit of depth and more projection and not ready to play. Or maybe you could argue that, you didn't have to take Sammy Womack in the 5th round, that you reached for a guy. But so what? If the scout loved him, to me, 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, as I said before, kind of the same. And Tariq Castro Fields, was a guy who was projected to go higher, and you got him later. So I don't really have a problem with any of that. But I do see the criticism of the draft if it just ended there. But where it didn't end there. They had a phenomenal haul. I would say I've looked at every team's haul of draft picks and every team's haul of undrafted free agents, and there are teams that got a guy or maybe a second guy. Dallas got a couple decent safeties, for example, Wanye Thomas, and I think Marquise Bell both wound up in Dallas. A couple nice undrafted free agents. I thought the 49ers got like somewhere around 6 or 7 really intriguing undrafted free agents. So let's go through the list. What do you like? Which one do you like?
Well, I think you prefaced it perfectly, Larry. Donovan West, the center out of Arizona State. If you just swap, if the 49ers would have drafted him in the 3rd round, everybody would have said awesome pick.
Right.
They would have said,
way to go. Yeah.
Good job. You met a need. But guess what? You got him for free. For free. And why did you get all these guys for free, as you talked about? Because the 49ers reward their practice squad players. They're undrafted free agent players. There is not a team, not a franchise in the NFL that promotes from within like the Kyle Shanahan loyalty program that we have seen subscribe to for 6 years now. His guys are his guys. And not only do you get to play for him forever if he changes teams, he also lets you coach for him. So, like, if you want a career, you freaking hitch your wagon to Kyle Shanahan. He's going to take care of you. So, Donovan West, I think, was the big one. There's 2 other ones that jump off. Safety Leon O'Neal out of Texas A&M, and guard center kind of fullback Jason Poe out of Mercer. Those were 3 guys that I kept mock drafting repeatedly that I think are just perfect fits, and also had interviews with the 49ers as well.
Yeah.
Before the draft.
O'Neal, forget the workout time, and he's not a great cover guy, but man, this guy's got prototypical NFL body for the position. And if you watched A&M football, man, he's a good football player. He really is. And I don't know what his speed is, but he played in the SEC. He was plenty fast enough in that conference. I saw him I'm an A&M fan. I watch A&M all the time.
I'm a Longhorn fan, Larry. You better watch it.
We're coming for you. But O'Neal's a ball player. He's a little stiff in coverage. He's not the greatest cover player you've ever seen, but he's still got great NFL measurables, and he played. And he loves to play, and he's a smart football player. I like that pick. I'll tell you the other pick I really love. I love Quantrez Knight. Is that his name from UCLA? Quantrez is physical. I mean, really physical. And I don't know exactly what spot he's going to play in the secondary, but man, if you told me he was going to be one of their safeties, I got no problem with that. And I don't know what his 40 time was, but I really like Quantrez. I thought that was a phenomenal pickup. And then the receivers, Tay Martin. I'm a Tay Martin fan. Now, he was going to Wazoo. He played there for 3 years. He bailed out of Wazoo. Why? Because he thought Pac-12 was going to cancel football. So he goes and plays for Oak State. If you watched Oak State this year, Tay Martin, big play Tay, was everywhere. And he lit up Notre Dame in the bowl game for 100-plus yards and 3 touchdowns. And without him, they don't beat Notre Dame. So he was awesome in the Big 12 title game. Tay
Yes.
Martin, 6'3", 185, kind of sinewy, strong, good route runner, plucks the ball. He's making the Niners team. I mean,
He's
and then
got a
Tasir,
lot of records there, man.
yeah, and then Tasir Mack was Kenny Pickett's deep threat at Pitt, and I don't know what he runs, but he's about 6'2", 190. He's more of a boundary receiver. I know. I guess he in the pre-draft he ran 4.47. I like both Tasir Mack and Tay Martin. I think they got two good receivers that have decent ball skills, believe it or not, and they got them after the draft. I'm really kind of amazed by it.
It's a great, and here's what's crazy. Last year, they got 4 undrafted free agents. Now, that was a COVID year and whatever else. Maybe they just didn't feel comfortable. But I think that this is a testament to how deep this draft is, that they had so many guys that they wanted to get that they brought in 12. You look at a roster compared to last year, like, why would you bring in 3 times as many? And on top of that, the 9 draft picks we just went through, you're bringing in 20 plus guys that are fits. Is everybody going to make the roster? No. You've got 90. You got to get down to 53. But with the expanded practice squads and all those things, a lot of these guys will be seen around for a while, and it's almost just like a to be continued. So a lot of these guys won't make the initial 53. That's okay. A lot of players on the 49ers current roster didn't make the initial 53. Juwan Jennings didn't. Roz Dwelly didn't. Azeez Al-Shaair didn't. Manuel Mosley didn't. That are key contributors now because, again, the 49ers reward, but they want a red shirt. They want everybody to learn, and then they can step in and contribute.
Yeah. To me, if you look at this draft, the one guy I didn't ask you about is Brock Purdy, but to me, I think the advantage of Purdy is after you move Garoppolo, you have maybe the cheapest quarterback room in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I mean, he's stop me if you've heard this before with Kyle Shanahan quarterbacks. Quick release, smart, good at short to intermediate field. He's freaking Nick Mullins. You could throw in Bobby Hoyer, Brett Rippia. I mean, it's just I've seen this quarterback so many times around Kyle Shanahan. Not a rocket arm. And again, I'm a Big 12 guy, so I've seen him play a lot for 4 years. He owns every record that exists for Iowa State passing. And so, yeah, he's interesting. His play did go down through his 4 years, unfortunately, but cerebral, smart, kind of does all those things. Doesn't move the needle a lot, but I can see why Kyle Shanahan likes him.
Give me your favorite draft outside of the 49ers. Was there somebody that you thought really kicked butt?
Man, I think I got to go Ravens. I thought the Ravens,
Yes,
just
I
like they do
agree.
every year,
Yep.
they sit there, they take stud starters that are going to be around for a long time. Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum. I mean, yeah, I understand that they traded away Marquise Brown for a first-round pick. How did they do that? That should have won the draft in and of itself. I would not trade a third-round pick for a 24-year-old wide receiver that wanted to retire last year. I just don't understand it. But yeah, Ravens, Eagles, those ones stood out to me as kind of the best draft in the NFL.
The Ravens, it's funny. Ozzie Newsome was great at this, and Eric DeCosta has followed up, and he's equally great at this. And they draft really great college football players, and they hope that they become great NFL players. I gave them an A in their draft. I thought it was phenomenal. Hamilton and Linderbaum, I think, are future Pro Bowlers. David Ajabo, I mean, if he, pre-Achilles was a Pro Bowl defensive end, top 15 pick.
Yeah,
Travis Jones was monster in Mobile. I mean, he's freakishly strong. He can just waltz centers back into the quarterback. And can they get it out of him? That's the big question with Jones. Batty, the Missouri running back, is a damn good back. They got Zacoby McClain as an undrafted free agent linebacker at Auburn. He's an undersized guy, but he flies around and makes plays. I just think the Ravens had a phenomenal draft. I think the way they do it is the way you should do it. There's you can make mistakes for any number of reasons, right, John? But find great college football players, draft them. And that's really it. 49er Minded says, I'm happy that we were fortunate to sign Donovan West. Great show. You guys are killing it. Yeah, it was. And today. I mean, seriously, John and I could go back and forth on this for hours and hours. But John, I'm going to let you go because I've been taking enough of your time today. But I appreciate you, man, and I'm glad Vegas went well for you. I saw some of your videos online, and great stuff. Looked like you guys are having fun. You busted out the jacket. What was that jacket you had going, man?
Oh, it's the money jacket. I lost a bet to some seniors one year, and they got to pick whatever suit they wanted for me to wear to prom, and so they bought a full suit made out of $100 bills. And so for Vegas, I thought, why not, man? Why not?
Awesome, man. Well, hey, have a great rest of your Monday. For those of you who want more Niner talk, I'm gonna do a live stream with Jack Hammer here in a few, and we'll get his thoughts as well on the draft. It's a big draft review Monday on the Krug Show. John, best of luck to you, and we'll be talking draft for the next week. We'll probably call you back in
love it, man.
In a
Take
week,
care, Larry.
We'll do it again. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle.